So let's go ahead and get the bracket mounted to the motor, or motor mounted to the bracket, however you want to look at it. And the bracket's already pre-cut, and you'll see that the bracket actually is cut. So I'm going to get you to focus on this. These little square pieces here and on the sides and on the bottom to match the same pattern that's actually on the motor itself. It's kind of squared off here on this radius, so it fits right in there. Nice and flush. And these are 13mm bolts and nuts that we're going to use. And as you can see, these are the safety or nylon. Let's turn around so you can see the nylon part. Nuts that are going to allow us to keep these things from coming loose without a usual lock washer. And of course, simple enough, we're just going to put them in, bolt it together. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the video until I get all these put together for you. There's no sense in wasting video watching me just starting a bunch of bolts and getting them tightened down. But that's how it's going to go, so we'll be back in a minute. Alright, that's the last one. So we've got everything tightened up now, and I'm going to put they have these little plastic bits that go on here. They're really kind of neat. They actually cover up the outside of the bolt, and this is what they look like. And you can see they're also the shape of the bolt, a little rounded top on them. So we're just going to line those up with the bolt sides, press them on. And that's a nice little dress up bit that they've added. They didn't have to. At least they threw that in there. And there you have it. We have it all mounted. And as you can see, go ahead and set this flat. Get rid of the wood block I used to keep it from interfering with the table I was putting it on. So now you can see it's firmly mounted, and again you can see where the cable connectors are going to come out of the back because I turned them that way we saw before previously. And now I have the top nice and flat so I can get my monitors as close to this flange up here. Let's get the flange over there. You can see it. There it is. So I want my monitors to get pretty close to this because the wheel will be here, but then again I'll have a quick release system, so the wheel's going to set out about another 50mm from there. So we'll get all that configured up now that we have this mounted. And next thing will be to mount the actual plate to the bottom of this bracket that I'm going to slide into the mount that I have fabricated for the Stage 4 SimXperience that I use. So we'll go ahead and get it mounted to the plate, and we're going to use these, which are the longer stainless steel bolts that they give you. So a little focus here. There we go. So nothing special, but they do give you these thumb nuts here, which are kind of neat. So it's easy to put it on and take it off. And they're gonna, instead of nylon bolts, again we're just gonna have the regular lock washers that we use on a lot of stuff to keep things from shaking loose on our simulator. Alright, so let's get this thing mounted to the plate and we'll see how that ends up looking. Now we have it securely mounted to our 1/4" aluminum plate. The thumb screws worked really a lot better than I thought they would be, to be quite honest. Nice and tight. And this plate, I'm going to be mounting this to 80/20 profile, and you'll see that after I get it mounted why I use that, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But right now I've got the long weird looking nuts on the back and the screws mounted so we can slide it in there. And I have enough clearance on the profiles to clear these two pieces, or these 4 pieces right here, and we'll see how that works in just a minute. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and install my quick release bit that attaches to the motor. And you've already seen the review I did on this great little quick release here. And I'm going to go ahead and put that on before I slide it on. So I'll go ahead and do that, and we'll come back with me having this slid onto the mounts, the 80/20 mounts that I have on the rig. Now we have the plate mounted to the 2" by 2" 80/20 profiles. And by the way, this is a 10 series profile in case you guys were wondering. I'm using 4 90-degree 8-hole brackets to mount these 80/20s to the cross member of the rig. It's pretty easy and simple design, as you see. The hardest part of this was I had 14 individual holes to drill in the cross member and then tap the holes and still make sure they all lined up perfectly so the brackets would fit. So that was a bit of fiddly moments to make sure everything stayed in line while I was marking holes and drilling and tapping. But anyway, we got it done. And as you can see, the plate will slide back and forth on this 80/20. And you can see also there's a reason I set back the holes over here for the bolts about 2.5 inches from the edge so that I could have it out like this. And this would typically, I've already kind of mocked it up so it looks like I want it to look. When I have my open wheel car steering wheel on, this is about the position I want to be in. So it feels pretty comfortable. Now, when I get to my oval racing and I put the oval wheel on, I'll just put that on real quick to show you. I can actually slide these brackets. I can actually slide it because it's closer now, and I really don't want it quite that close, even though with oval racing I do like the wheel closer. So what I can do is actually slide this back a bit and still not get any interference with my hands on the profiles here. That's another consideration. You don't want to have your knuckles hanging out and hit the edges of what your mount is. And this would be more of probably where I'd want it for the oval cars. So again, it's just an easy loosening up these 4 screws right here, and then I can slide it back and forth. And push comes to shove and that's still not enough, then of course I can just loosen the brackets back here, and I've got about another 3 inches of clearance back there before I hit my center speaker. So that's probably good. I don't have any problem with that. And what I'll do is go ahead and just tighten it down and get the end caps in. So let's do that. Grab my wrench. So I'm just going to pull it back out for the open wheel car. That looks about right. Go ahead and just take this off, get it out of the way. That's the beauty of quick releases. And we'll just tighten these down real quick. Get it going the right way. And you really don't have to tighten these things down much. I gotta just snug them up pretty good because it's just the way those nuts that you saw on the bottom, how they grip, they really grip well. So I just snug them up. And if you tighten them up too tight, it'll actually bite into the grooves that are inside this profile and leave marks, which makes it harder to move in the future. Alright, so as you can see now, with it tight, this is one rock solid mount. It's not going anywhere. Even with this powerful motor on here, it will not budge at all. And again, that's one of the things that I'm a stickler about, is any movement at all in the steering part of the system. Now, you might be wondering, not to go off target too much here, but why do I even have this mount on here? I'm not using the OEM mount. Well, number one, the OEM mount is nowhere near as strong and as stiff as this mount is. Number two is, I had to get my steering wheel higher. As you noticed, I like my steering wheel a little bit higher up than a lot of typical mounts on rigs will have. I like to have the top of the wheel right about here, top of my lip, bottom of my nose, and that just gives me a little bit more leverage when I'm pushing the wheel when I'm steering. And of course that's correct technique. You should be pushing the wheel instead of pulling it down to steer it. So that gives me just more muscle right in here when it's closed. If you're out here like this, it's really harder to push. It's much easier when it's back like this. And it's comfortable. I can go long races with it like that. And of course, like I said, if I put the deep dish on there, I'll just push it forward. So that looks good. I guess that's about all I got to say about this profile. Pretty simple setup, like I said. The hardest thing was getting the screws right. And I do have these, which are the little caps. So I'm not going to leave this just hanging out like this. I'm actually going to put these caps on here. And they have these little push button pins. And all you do is take the push pin, line it up with the holes in there in the profile, and push them in. And there's 4, of course, on this 2" by 2" profile. So once you get that on, it does 2 things. Not only does it look better, but it keeps your hands from brushing up against what can be, it depends on how you cut it. Even if it was cut at the factory, these edges can be kind of sharp on this 80/20. So that cap keeps my hand, if I brush against it, I don't cut my hand or anything, or fingers or anything like that. Plus, it makes it look pretty good too, I think. Anyway, so that's how we have it mounted. Now we're going to get all the connections up and get this thing fired up and put it through its paces. First thing I'll do probably is just get it up on the screen, the calibration routines for this wheel, and show how no matter how I mounted it, I can still make it top dead center right here by using the software.